His generals told him not to do it. The pass was too narrow, single file only. If enemies waited at the other end, the army would be slaughtered, one by one. No room to fight, no room to retreat. Every general advised against it. Thutmose III did it anyway, and what happened next would be studied by military commanders for the next 3,500 years. The Battle of Megiddo, 1457 BCE, the first battle in human history where we know exactly what happened, the tactics, the terrain, the decisions, the outcome, not legend, not myth, military history, written down by scribes who were there. The man who made that decision, Thutmose III, the greatest military commander Egypt ever produced. He fought 17 campaigns, never lost, expanded Egyptian territory to its maximum extent. And at Megiddo, he showed the world what military genius actually looks like. This is the story of the first recorded battle in history. To understand Megiddo, you need to understand what Egypt had become. After driving out the Hyksos invaders, Egypt didn't just recover, it expanded aggressively. The new kingdom pharaohs pushed north into Canaan and Syria, creating an empire of vassal states, paying tribute to Egypt. But vassals don't always stay loyal, especially when a new pharaoh takes the throne, especially when that pharaoh had been overshadowed his entire life. Thutmose III became pharaoh as a child, but he didn't rule. His stepmother Hatshepsut did. She was regent, then co-ruler, then basically pharaoh in all but name, for over 20 years. Imagine that. You're technically king, but someone else makes every decision. Someone else gets the glory. Someone else builds the monuments. When Hatshepsut died, Thutmose was in his 30s. He'd spent his whole adult life waiting, learning, planning. Now it was his turn. Almost immediately, rebellion. The king of Kadesh, a powerful city in Syria, saw opportunity. New pharaoh, untested in battle. Maybe Egypt was weak. He formed a coalition. Over 300 Canaanite and Syrian rulers joined him. They gathered their forces at Megiddo, a fortress city controlling the main route between Egypt and the north. If Megiddo held, Egypt's northern empire was finished. Every vassal would see that Egypt could be defied. The whole system would collapse. Thutmose didn't hesitate. He assembled the army and marched north, fast. The Egyptian military machine was the most advanced in the world. Professional soldiers, composite bows that could punch through armor, chariots, light, fast, deadly, and a command structure that had been refined over generations. But none of that matters if your general makes the wrong decision. And Thutmose was about to face the most important decision of his life. The army reached the Carmel mountain range. Megiddo was on the other side. 3 routes could get them there. The northern route, safe but long. The enemy would have time to prepare. The southern route, also safe, also long. And the Aruna Pass, straight through the mountains, directly to Megiddo. But so narrow an army would have to march single file. If the enemy blocked the exit, it would be a massacre. Thutmose called a war council. His generals were unanimous. Don't take the Aruna Pass. Put yourself in their position. You're an experienced commander. You've fought campaigns. You know that the first rule of warfare is don't put your army somewhere it can be destroyed. The Aruna Pass was a death trap. If the enemy had positioned forces at the exit, the Egyptian army would be annihilated, strung out, unable to form battle lines, cut down as they emerged. Every single general advised the safe routes. Thutmose overruled them all. His reasoning? The enemy would think the same way his generals did. They would assume Egypt would never risk the Aruna Pass. They would position their forces to block the safe routes. The most dangerous route was actually the safest, precisely because it was so dangerous. No one would expect it. This is called getting inside the enemy's decision loop, doing what they think is impossible, and it's still taught in military academies today. And then Thutmose did something even more remarkable. He led from the front. The pharaoh himself was the first through the pass, not hiding in the rear, not letting soldiers take the risk while he waited. First, if there was an ambush, he would die first. His army saw their god king leading them into danger personally. The message was clear. I believe in this plan enough to bet my own life on it. They emerged. No ambush. The exit was unguarded. Thutmose had been right. The coalition forces were positioned on the other routes, waiting for an Egyptian army that would never arrive. The Egyptians were now directly in front of Megiddo, between the city and the coalition army. The enemy's defensive position was now behind them. They'd been completely outmaneuvered. The battle was already half won, before a single blow was struck. Thutmose didn't attack immediately. He made camp, let his army rest after the march through the pass, formed proper battle lines. The coalition scrambled to reposition, but they were off balance. Surprised, their entire defensive strategy had assumed Egypt would come from the north or south. As dawn broke, the Egyptian army was ready. The coalition was not, and Thutmose gave the order to attack. The Egyptian chariots hit first. Thutmose himself led the charge. We have the actual account. His Majesty went forth in a chariot of electrum, armed with his weapons of war, like Horus armed with talons. This isn't legend. This is military record, written by scribes who watched it happen. The coalition line broke almost immediately. They weren't ready. They weren't positioned. And they were facing the most professional army in the Bronze Age world. The coalition routed, fled toward Megiddo's walls, desperate to reach safety. And here's where the records become almost comedic. The gates were closed, too risky to open them with Egyptians in pursuit. So the defenders lowered ropes and clothing from the walls to haul their own allies up, including, according to the records, the kings of Megiddo and Kadesh themselves. The leaders of the rebellion pulled up the walls by their clothes like children escaping a schoolyard bully. Total victory. Almost. The Egyptian soldiers stopped to loot the enemy camp. Gold, silver, weapons, horses, chariots, the wealth of 300 kingdoms just lying there for the taking. Thutmose was furious. The records quote him, "If only the army had not given their hearts to plundering, they would have captured Megiddo at that moment." Think about that. He won decisively, and he was still angry because he saw a greater victory that slipped away. Now came the siege. The coalition leaders were trapped inside Megiddo. The Egyptian army surrounded the city completely. Thutmose ordered a moat dug around the walls, then a wooden wall built around that. He called it encircling Megiddo with the might of Thutmose. No one was getting in. No one was getting out. The only question was how long they could hold. The answer, 7 months. When Megiddo finally surrendered, Thutmose showed an interesting combination of mercy and ruthlessness. The rebel kings lived. He needed them. Dead kings create power vacuums. But they submitted completely. Their children were taken to Egypt as hostages, to be raised Egyptian, to learn Egyptian ways, and to ensure their father's loyalty. One battle, 300 kingdoms brought back under Egyptian control. The Northern Empire secured for generations. This is why military historians still study Megiddo. Thutmose recorded everything. The annals carved into the walls of Karnak Temple list every campaign, every battle, every piece of plunder in obsessive detail. We know exactly how many horses were captured at Megiddo, 2,041. How many chariots? 924. Coats of armor? 200. The grain harvest from enemy fields, the gold, the silver, everything. This wasn't just record-keeping, it was military science. Document what works, learn from what doesn't, build institutional knowledge that outlasts any single commander. Megiddo was just the beginning. Thutmose fought 16 more campaigns, pushed Egyptian territory all the way to the Euphrates River, farther than any pharaoh before or after. He never lost a battle, not one. Napoleon studied him. Napoleon, who knew something about military campaigns, called Thutmose III a military genius. Coming from Napoleon, that's the highest possible praise. And Megiddo itself? It would be fought over again, and again, and again. Egyptians, Israelites, Assyrians, Babylonians, Persians, Greeks, Romans, Crusaders, Ottomans, the British in World War I. You might know Megiddo by its Greek name, Armageddon, the place where, according to the Book of Revelation, the final battle of the world will be fought. Humans have been fighting over this crossroads for so long that we made it the symbol of war itself. Thutmose III died around 1425 BCE. He'd ruled for nearly 54 years, once Hatshepsut's reign is counted. He left Egypt stronger than he'd found it. And he left something else, proof that warfare could be a science, that planning beats numbers, that doing the unexpected wins battles, that records matter. The first recorded battle was fought by a man who understood that knowledge is power, and he made sure his knowledge survived him. After Megiddo, Egypt was the dominant power in the ancient world, but not the only power. Far to the north, another empire was rising, the Hittites. They had something Egypt didn't, iron, and ambitions just as grand. To the east, Babylon and Assyria. To the west, the mysterious Sea Peoples. For a few centuries, these great powers created something remarkable, an international system. Trade, diplomacy, treaties, letters between kings calling each other brother. A Bronze Age United Nations, connected by trade routes and mutual interest. Next time, the world that bronze built, how tin from Afghanistan reached Egypt, how Egyptian gold reached Babylon, how letters from one king to another traveled thousands of miles. The first global economy. It was complex, sophisticated, interdependent, and it was about to collapse completely in a catastrophe that would destroy nearly every civilization in the Eastern Mediterranean in a single generation. Season finale, when bronze ruled the world.